behind the scenes were praying. Because they knew that I was checking in the evidence. I was looking into these issues for myself, and they just wanted me to be open-minded about the evidence.
I was feeling like my whole world was opening up into something new and
I don't do it.
I was just doing it.
So I try to do damage.
We
So I
had
try
been
to kill the
on,
guy.
and it was
eventually.
that
Put him out of
frustration
misery.
of trying to
But I
help
was
him
doing
to
it
recognize
to this like
that was
VK.
the
I was
case.
just perma
Well,
tracking
Leslie
him,
tried
stuck
several
his
things during this
nose
period to
out
try to
there.
spur me on
And
in
this
my
artillery
investigation.
comes
It didn't help very much.
reversing
For instance,
past it
she would
and
leave
going
Bible
by
tracks
me.
around the
And,
house.
like,
So
I
she
just
would
shot to
take a
perma-track
Christian
it. So
book
I just
and
could watch
highlight
it, and
certain
he's just
passages and
reversing,
leave
goes
it
past
open
me,
on a
I'm sitting
coffee
here.
table, things like
Like,
that.
what the heck?
It really
And as
didn't
soon
help,
as
but
he
I told her
passes me,
it was
he's
not
already
helping.
got it
And
aimed up.
she understood
and just goes
that.
boom
But I think
and blows
sort of
me
the
up.
whole
And then
time
just
she was
continues to reverse
holding her
by, like,
breath.
reverse
This
artillery
was
drive
not
Thug life.
a
Yeah.
very
I was
smooth
like,
investigation.
all right.
And he would take
pretty
2 steps
good.
forward,
I
3 steps back. Sometimes
Bravo.
it looked like he
Bravo,
was
sir.
really
And then the
getting
artillery
it,
killed him.
and other times he would just turn into
Roberto,
an
what about you?
angry,
You got any, man, what makes
frustrated
you
person
happiest?
again. And
One of my favorites
so it was
is
a
when
very
he sets
frustrating
someone on
time
fire,
for both
and
of us.
you see like that auto fire
I believe
extinguisher
Jesus
right
was
on.
a real
And so
person.
lucky enough to hit him again
I believe he
and
did
sparks
live.
him
I
on fire
guess there
again.
are some exaggerations in the Bible, I'd have to say.
I don't believe we'll ever know if Jesus was really what everyone thinks he is. I think
And just seeing
it's
that
a
HP
lot of
just dwindle
folklore.
away,
I think it's a lot of
cashing out on extreme
historical
credit.
misrepresentations. I think it's a lot of wishful thinking. But I don't think we know, and I don't think we'll ever know, and I don't think there's any way to prove what has been claimed about Jesus for all these years.
The biographies of Jesus in the New Testament gave me a lot of information about him. But Christians were saying that he is the Son
Isn't there
of
like
God.
a medal like
That's a
arsonist or
huge
something like
step
that
to
you
take
get?
to believe that. And so I sought out more scholars so I could pose to them this question.
This
Who
is probably the best
was
representation
Jesus?
of that metal right there, by the way. It's like this, it's got fire coming out of it.
There's another one for Amaranth. Yeah, it looks the same. That's one of my favorites.
Amaranth.
Yeah, like
Michael
it's gotta be a
Rydelnik,
big tank.
Moody Bible
Full
Institute.
health, huge, like a tog or something with a ton of health. Because I was thinking
Ben
of what has a
Witherington,
lot of health
Asbury
and
Seminary.
hit takes forever. It's gotta be full health. And then you just go boom, and then they're usually.
Now, this is one of the things I love about Jesus, and it says something to us. His identity is complex.
That is the
He
best thing.
can't
What
be
about light
pigeonholed.
tanks going
He fits
super
no
fast?
one formula. There's a lot of aspects to who he is. But always,
in reverse,
he
'cause they're gonna
presents
try to get
himself
around
as a
you,
challenge
but then if you're
to
smart
the
enough, you
status
just go
quo,
backwards,
to
and then you just
precondition
flip them a
thinking
little
about
bit,
what
a
Son
little
of
bit,
God,
a
what
little
Messiah
nudge will get them
must
either up
be.
off the
He's
tracks,
carving out his own
or
niche. He's
fully
doing
flip
his
them.
own thing,
And you
like
see
a
the
great
Hulk
and
go-
creative artist.
The Panzer V
He
Four
is
is great at
not
doing
simply
that. He's running into the
replicating
little Panzer
anything
One
from the
Cs and
past. He
Stewarts.
is
Just
taking
all
bits and
day, just
pieces of prophecies
bam,
and
just
ideas,
crushing them. But I've seen you
wisdom
a number of times
literature,
where
and
you're
law, and
looking
you
and
name
watching
it,
them,
and
trying to get them at
he's
speed,
made
and
a
then
whole
watching them.
gumbo.
You lead them
And
as
he's
they're
serving
doing the hill,
people don't know what to
thing.
think.
And you just-
He goes
and
in a
they
synagogue
keep
and
doing
says
it,
some of this
spot
stuff, and they go,
spot and gone. You're just like,
wow,
oh, and then you
a
just
new
lead it, you're like,
teaching,
I know you're gonna
and
pop
with
up and they come.
authority.
You hit them.
Shazam.
And it's even more satisfying now.
Amazingly,
You track them and they do that.
No one
that
teaches like
spin,
him because he spoke
and
with
you're
his
just like,
own authority.
oh,
That's the, our
you
sages,
just watch
our
them
rabbis
spin and then
always
panic.
thought
Their
that
church
you
like,
have to teach in the name of someone else. You know,
Everyone's
Rabbi so-and-so says in the name of Rabbi so-and-so. That's the way rabbis were taught to teach. Yeshua came and said, you've heard it said, but not what my rabbi taught me, but I say unto you.
And he would clarify,
I
even
don't know what to do. I don't know what to do.
overrule in
Backing
some
up, going,
ways
I
the
don't
Old
know what to
Testament law.
do.
Well, this law was given by God himself.
Well, and
For
then
Jesus
you get
to say,
it so that
I am
their
the
turret's
authoritative
backwards to the
interpreter of
hole,
the
and
law.
there's
I am the one
that's
who
when
has
you know
come
you
to
mayhem.
fulfill the law.
yeah.
That's an
Because you're
extraordinary
imagining the
claim,
other
claim
dude
to
behind
essentially the
just tweaking.
authority.
That is more just, what do I do? What do I do?
Right?
The Spirit of the
No
Sovereign
rage,
Lord
no
is
rage.
on me, because the Lord has anointed me to preach
If
good
you
news to the
can't
poor.
circle them.
He has
The
sent
other
me to
one
bind
of my
up the
favorite.
brokenhearted,
It's really hard to do.
to
but lower
proclaim
what happens is
freedom
you
to
take
the
cover behind
captives.
an enemy, so like you have a big
Isaiah
tank slowly turning, you have a little
61:1.
tank, you hide behind it. And their
It's interesting
friends
because
are over
when
here trying to shoot.
Yeshua went into
Shoot
the
their
synagogue,
friend
that
over
was
and
the
over and over
passage he
again.
read. And he says, this day, this verse
That's
is
actually a
fulfilled in
great
your
tactic. That's
hearing.
a pro tactic.
And basically
it's
he's saying,
really
I'm the
hard to
servant
do,
that's
but-
described here.
But
I'm
then
the
you
one
get
that
them as
fulfills
shield,
this.
so that you don't
Philip
get
comes
up
to
on
Jesus and asks him to show us the Father, and Jesus says, the one who's seen me has seen the
Most
Father.
times doesn't.
Jesus clearly presents himself as the self-revelation of God. Those
Let's
who
talk
meet
about
Jesus
them.
are, in fact, meeting God.
When Jesus is brought before Caiaphas, the high priest, and some of the Sanhedrin members
So
of the
money
Roman
promoting
community
that
that
for you
Jesus
right
is
now?
arrested,
It's
they're
pretty
trying
good.
to
It's pretty
find incriminating
somebody
evidence.
knows
They're
where to
trying to
find
find
that, put it on
incriminating
Reddit.
testimony
Link
that
it
not
on
done
Reddit.
real well.
It's on
And
Reddit.
finally,
Link it in
the high priest asked Jesus
What
directly,
about,
tell us plainly,
artillery? I mean,
are you the
everybody-
Messiah, the Son of God?
I play
And
artillery.
Jesus says, I am. And you will see
So
the
you don't
Son
like
of
it.
Man seated at the right hand, coming
So
with
I
the clouds of
play
heaven.
artillery,
And there
and by that I
Jesus
mean
has combined
because
phrases from
the
Daniel
least
7
artillery
and Psalm 110.
Okay,
Jesus
aim,
sees
fast shooting. Basically, it's just
himself
a long-range
as this heavenly
But
figure.
other artillery, it's just too frustrating.
More than 80 times in the New Testament Gospels, Jesus is identified as the Son of Man.
The leaf blower,
The
that's
human
great.
connotations of the phrase are obvious.
I guess
A broader interpretation is found in an Old Testament scripture written by the Jewish prophet Daniel.
In my vision at night, I looked, and there before me was one like a son
oh
of man,
no, it's like help,
coming with the
help,
clouds of
help,
heaven.
help. Like defend
He
base,
approached
defend
the
base.
Ancient of Days and was
they're just,
led
like, trying
into
to
his
skirt off
presence.
and they're big bombs.
They're trying to
Daniel
relocate at
7:13.
2 miles per hour.
Yeah.
Like, good luck.
That's fun.
Many
killing
Christians and
artillery
non-Christians
great.
like
If you
hear
are
the phrase
artillery,
Son of Man. They think
shotgunning,
Son of
TDM
God
with
refers to
artillery,
his
it's
deity
holy.
and Son of Man refers to
Shotgun, HE
his
shell.
humanity. That's in part true, but in fact Son of Man has a much greater significance than that as well. The title Son of Man, Jesus draws that title from Daniel chapter 7. Where a glorious messianic figure comes before the Ancient of Days, a reference to God, and he is given all glory and power and majesty. That portrait
clearly
of
you're
this
cheating. You could not
glorious
have done
Messiah
that.
is the one that Jesus
When you're site
identifies
scraping right,
himself with.
and these
He
guys,
is
they use
the Son
premium
of Man.
ammo,
So
and you
Son of
still get
Man
the
doesn't
deflection,
just
hacker.
mean a human being.
Hacker.
His dominion is
It
an
is satisfying.
everlasting
I mean, especially
dominion
if
that
you know you're
will
not
not
cheating.
pass away,
Yeah.
and his
Which we
kingdom
never
is
do.
one
Which we
that
never
will
do.
never be
You should
destroyed.
never do either.
Daniel
But
7:14.
yeah, having
do that.
someone
Actually, the
basically tell you
phrase
that you
Son
are
of Man
unstoppable.
refers to his
You must be
humanness and his more
We should have
than
a hack.
humanness.
There should be a
Agreed.
Because no
It's
human
like-
being
sorry,
can rule forever.
Not like because you are a
unless he's
hacker,
a
but if you
forever
get
person
called
in some
a
kind
hacker
of
check
way.
and you aren't hacking, which you shouldn't do, it's very bad.
very bad.
We should give you a medal. That's the
In addition to the
If anybody
claims
has
that
vitamin
Jesus makes
skills,
about himself in the
please
New
draw that
Testament,
up
there were
and
also
submit it to me.
reports
I
that
made
he
this for
performed the
WGS,
miraculous, that he
hackermore
walked on
gaming.net.
water and healed the
You might,
sick and
put
turned
it on
water
social
into
media after
wine
stuff. Shameless
and
plug,
raised the dead and did exorcisms. And so
Speaking
I
of,
had to know, is
medals,
there
what's
evidence
the
that these
best one you've ever
miracles
got, or the
are a
most
result of his
arsonist
divine
earlier?
nature?
Jesus' contemporaries, that is, people who liked him, people who were indifferent, neutral, and people who opposed him, all acknowledged he did extraordinary things. Now, of course,
Well,
the people
that
who
narrows down the
Jesus
Russian medals completely.
believed in him and followed him said Jesus did these powerful works because of the Spirit of God. People who opposed him would say, well, I admit he does these amazing things, but it's because the devil is helping him.
The Talmud actually speaks of some of these things.
So
In
when
some
you
of the
when that
passages
happens,
that deal
when
with
you
Yeshua,
win, when you're
it
1
has
against 5
him
and you win,
as
how do you
a
solve
magician.
everything else after that?
And why do
Bacon,
they describe him as a magician?
Well,
It's
flexing,
not flattering.
mirror flexing,
There's a historical recognition
calf
here
raises.
that when Yeshua
I'm
came
guessing
You gotta go for the towel first, because your
Isaiah
hand, your palms are
35
so
indicates
sweaty.
that
That's
right,
the
yeah.
Messianic
Fighting
age,
fire.
and when the Messiah comes,
So
he'll
when
be
you-
able
Hot
to
pocket.
the blind see and the lame
When you
walk.
get the medal, is that it for the
The New
day?
Testament
Like, do you shut
Gospels
down?
Yeah,
Or
that's
do
when you gotta
do
log
keep
out.
pushing it?
Separate
been,
miracles
probably
performed
been a
by
year and a
Jesus
half
during the
since I
course
got
of his
that medal.
ministry.
Well,
They include healings,
So I would say
exorcisms,
no, I didn't shut
mastery
down.
over
I didn't
nature,
really understand
and
the
even
medal
raising
until
of the
later on
dead.
in my walk career, what I actually did.
Christian theology has always held that these
But, yeah, I
miracles
would
are
say
part of
that's
a
my
total
most
picture that displays the attributes
What
of
about you guys?
God himself.
Man, mine doesn't compare to that. I think I got the
Unlimited
one
power,
that where you kill 3
total
enemy
knowledge,
artillery in the same battle.
ever present,
That's actually what it's
unchanging,
called.
eternal.
I
My
don't.
medal game is not that
There's no
impressive.
question that the biographies of Jesus describe him as
Yeah, I don't
a
think I have
worker of
any
mighty
medals on it, to be
deeds.
honest.
But
think
I
did
wanted to
get the
know,
one. You
does
talking
this
about the
make him any
artillery one?
different than
I
the
have
other
that. I got it on
miracle
Xbox.
workers and magicians of the ancient world?
Is that what it's
Miracle
called?
workers that we find
And I think it was
occasionally in the
it
first
was
century are
literally.
magicians. They use
But you know what? I caught a
incantations,
couple
they
of
use
them
spells,
out there. They were
try to
sleeping.
coerce
Exactly.
Here
Got
I
all
came.
three.
Bam, bam,
gods
bam.
or
Took the
divine figures to
opportunity.
work on their
Yeah.
behalf. That's very
Gosh, you're
different than
sleeping.
Jesus'
All
miracles.
right, well,
Jesus'
listen, I think,
his miracles were to demonstrate
know
the
you guys
power
have
of the kingdom of
I
God.
mean, I think this
He
has been a
healed
good-
the
a good
sick. He
talk.
pointed
I'm
back
really
to
interested to hear what
Isaiah's
people
prophecies
have,
that when God's
for
kingdom
their
would come,
stories,
when
the
God's
things that make
salvation
them
would
happiest,
come,
the moments
the
that
lame
they've
would
had in
walk,
the
the
game
blind would
that
see.
are
This
really
was the
exciting.
demonstration
the
that God's
yippies.
kingdom was arriving.
The Exorcist.
And also
You don't
the best
find any
medal
of
that
those in
you've
the Old
ever
Testament. People were not looking for
and how
messianic
you did it.
exorcists.
If you got
He
that
carves carves out his own niche, he reveals his identity.
One other thing we'd love your help with, we really enjoy getting on the
somebody
couch
who can
and
take
talking
on the
tanks,
powers of darkness himself
but we'd love
and
to
win.
hear what you
kind
guys
of person
would
is
like to see us
that?
discuss. So put that
And he
in the
doesn't have to use
comments as well.
recipes and
If you haven't
formulas
already,
like other
share
ancient
the video,
exorcists. He
please
can just
subscribe,
call
and again,
the demon
thanks
by
for
name
watching.
and that boy's out of there.
One of the most astonishing things that Jesus did was when he claimed to forgive sins. In Mark's Gospel, chapter 2, a man is brought to him, a paralyzed man. Are expecting Jesus to heal him, but instead, the first thing Jesus said is, "Your sins are forgiven." Only God forgives sins. Now, some might say, well, Jesus may have been forgiving sins on behalf of God. But in fact, that's not the way his listeners understood him, because immediately the religious leaders responded to that. Who is this that forgives sins?
Hot
Only
dogs
God
here.
forgives
Oop,
sins.
looks like I need to flip
But
one.
Jesus claims the ability to forgive sins.
go,
And they've
that'll be
confirmed that
nice.
he has that authority.
Meathead Militia
He
here
then
from the
heals
North America
man.
office, bringing you all the news and focus for World of Tanks
And so
every
a very
week.
obvious question
and
arises.
generic
That is
intro.
Jesus
It's
the
July
Messiah,
1st. Happy
the
Rabbit
Christ,
Rabbit,
the anointed
everybody.
one, the one sent
The
by
weather's
God
getting
to be the
extremely
Savior of
nice.
Israel
Sun's
and the
out.
world.
People are frolicking
Christians told
around,
me that
happy
there are
smiles on their
dozens and
face.
dozens of ancient
Well, it's so
prophecies
beautiful
contained in
outside.
the
I
Old
plan on
Testament
being
and the
indoors
Bible,
playing video
and that
games
they
all month
predict
long,
the coming
which
of
is why
this
we have this
Messiah,
event for
and
you
that
called Summer
Jesus,
Play. It's
against
happening
all
all month
mathematical
long. The
odds,
first half
fulfilled
of the
those
event is
prophecies.
for
And I
you
thought,
folks that like to
this is a little
platoon.
bit like the fingerprint
Oh,
evidence
hold
you
on
see in
one
a court of
second.
law.
I'm going to flip that one more
I
time.
remember covering one particular
Don't tell the
case
chefs
where
that I
the
did that, they
murderer
might get
went through
upset.
the purse of
The first
victim,
half is going to
and
be
he
for you
left
platoon
one
folks.
thumbprint
You get
on the
into platoons,
cellophane
participate in
wrapper
some
of a package
battles,
of cigarettes.
and at the end
And it
of the
was
second
that
week,
thumbprint
we are going
that
to
led
award
to his
3
conviction
people
for
1
murder.
million
And
free
I thought,
XP.
in an
1
analogous way,
million
could
free
it be
XP.
that these
That is
ancient
ridiculous.
prophecies are
That'll
sorta
get you up
like
to a
that
tier
thumbprint
10
on the
and some
cellophane?
change.
Do they
The
create
second half
a
is for you lone
thumbprint
wolves, the
that
people that
only
hate
Jesus
human
Christ in
beings
all of
and like to
history
play solo.
manages to manage?
Get into battle, play at least 100, and then after the second week, at the end of the month, we'll be giving away 100 Tier 8 premium vehicles. Now, to complement that, we have tankrewards.com. I am just going to have to flip this again. Hold on. Ooh, that's looking almost done. That's looking almost done. The togs are almost done, too. Tankrewards.com. It's a place where you go, tankrewards.com. I'm supposed to say it like 1,000 times, tankrewards.com. Get it into your brain, tankrewards.com. Go there, tankrewards.com. You go there, you earn tokens by participating in Summer Play. At the end of the month, you go back to tankrewards.com, tankrewards.com, and you get yourselves tokens for participating. And then you can earn some equipment, consumables, boosters. I did hear there's going to be credit boosters, so that's amazing. Insert expletive that I can't say because that's how cool it is. Which brings us to why I'm standing in front of a grill flipping hot togs, even though this isn't a tog. This is the best we could do. July 4th weekend. You're going to blow your minds on this one. Times 5 XP, all weekend long. That's the first part. Second part, all USA, 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 USA. All USA premium vehicles are on gold discount. All regular US tanks are on credit discount, including Tier 10. Including Tier 10. Including Tier 10. That is nuts.
It's just a big coincidence.
So for any of you
In the Old Testament,
who
we
don't
really
have
two
the
kinds of
T110
prophecies.
E5
We
already,
have prophecies
it's also this
that are
on
fulfilled
track.
uniquely in Christ,
What
and prophecies
the
that are
monetization
fulfilled
guy really wanted to get
psychologically
his E5, so he
in Christ.
decided,
I
let's
think
you
we
know
need to
put
distinguish
discounts
between
on
the two.
US tanks, and
Those
let's
that are
also
fulfilled
put an on
uniquely
track for
in
the
Christ
most OP
were once and
Tier
for
10
all
in the game,
fulfilled
which is
by
the
Jesus.
T110
And
E5.
those are the ones
Stop
that we can
everything
really
you're
point
doing.
to.
Participate in the on track. Use this week to get yourself towards the E5. Hopefully we never nerf the E5 because it's one of my favorite tanks of all time.
His role as the suffering servant.
But yeah,
of
that's
Isaiah
ridiculous. We're going to just
53
keep
is
flipping
one of
this
those
one
prophecies.
because no one's coming to get
His
it.
entrance into Jerusalem on a
We also have
donkey
some
from
premium
Zechariah
vehicles on
chapter
sale.
9. These are
2 of which have
clear
never seen the
evidence
server.
that
One,
Jesus
the
is
PZ3K,
fulfilling
as
the
you can
Old
tell.
Testament.
Probably a
The
German
most
tank.
amazing part of Isaiah's prophecies is in
The next
Isaiah
is the
9,
KR
it speaks about the
Patton,
Son of
which
David
is the
coming to be the king to sit on
Tiger
the throne
face
of David and
tank.
have an eternal righteous
And then the
kingdom.
second, or the
And
third one,
everyone knows
is
that
the
Handel's
Sentinel's
Messiah,
big brother, the
Antos, the son is
AC4.
born, Antos, the child
Remember
is
the
given.
Sentinel, right?
The idea of this verse is that
So
the
that's
Messiah
cool.
will actually be
Open up your
born
wallets for that one if you feel like it.
physically
But you can also
born.
get those on rental
And then it says,
all
"And
month
his name
long.
shall be
And there'll be
called
some
Wonderful
contests
Counselor,
going on for those too.
Mighty God,
So
Father
pay
of
attention
eternity.
and find
In other
out when
words,
those
he's
are
the
going to happen.
creator, the author of
Alrighty.
Some skeptics have
Lastly,
said that
the Let's
Jesus
Battle
could
Tour.
have
It's something that we're going to start
engineered
doing.
the fulfillment of these
First
prophecies.
time we're going is
Of
down
course,
to the
Jesus could not
USS
have
Midway.
determined where he was going
There are
to be
going to be
born,
these
so to be
large
born in
player
Bethlehem,
event
obviously, he
gatherings.
could not have engineered that.
We hope that you can make
Also,
them.
as the
We'll
suffering
be going
servant,
pretty much
it would
all
have
over
been
the
difficult
place
for
in the
him
United
to
States,
engineer
but
such a
definitely
specific
some
fulfillment of Isaiah
specific general
53.
locations.
But on the other hand,
Hopefully you can make
the
it.
fact
Seriously,
that
it'd be fun.
Jesus
Meet some of us,
performed
it'll be great.
actions that in fact fulfilled
What else?
prophecies
I
only
think
demonstrates
that's
that he was
pretty
indeed
much
the
it.
Messiah.
We've got two more things to talk about. One, there's a lot going on in the month of July. Go here
Yes, I am the Messiah. So we certainly
to
have
go to
a
the July
glimpse
overview.
in
We
that
put it out every
fulfilled
month so you can
prophecy
plan
of
your
the
time.
self-consciousness of Jesus.
Go
that he
here
truly believed that he was the Messiah.
to learn about the Let's Battle Tour. I'm going to keep my hand up there for a couple seconds so you can click it.
Scholars have determined that Jesus fulfilled
And lastly,
at least 4 dozen major prophecies.
It's always fun.
Each written a minimum
Please
of 3
subscribe.
centuries before his birth.
And we'll see you on the battlefield.
content
Oh,
ranged
how
from
can I forget
specific
just
details
thinking about
about his
these
life
flippins?
to the symbolic
I got to remember the
implications of
community
his
question. The community question this week is, what would you like the community question
Psalm
to be?
22
Like, what
gives
kind
a
of question
poetic
is that?
picture
Well, we
by
want
David
you to
written
put your
in the
community
first
question in the comment section
what the Messiah
with your
would be like
in-game
in
name.
his suffering.
And if we use it for
And one of the
future
things he
Focus
says
Fridays, we're going to
is
give
that
you
they
the
will
tank of the month.
pierce my hands,
What?
my
I
feet.
just made that up right now because I
David
messed up on
wrote,
this
before
video.
crucifixion
So you know
was
what?
known,
We're going to give prizes out.
probably by about 300 years.
See you on the
Isaiah
battlefield.
53 says he was pierced through. This is the reason for his death. He was pierced through for our iniquities. So there's a purpose. He dies not just because he's a martyr, but because he's a substitution for sin.
A college professor of mathematics and science named Dr. Peter Stoner wanted to determine what the odds were that any human being throughout history could fulfill the messianic prophecies. So he had his students come up with very conservative estimates of the likelihood of any human being fulfilling certain of these predictions. And then they just ran the
That's
numbers.
actually
And what
tiring.
they determined is that the odds of any human being fulfilling 48 of these ancient prophecies would be 1 chance in a trillion.
It is mathematically virtually impossible.
To me, just as significant as all of those unique prophecies that were fulfilled in Christ is the complete drama of the Old Testament. The fact that the Old Testament is the story, the narrative of God's redemptive movement, his movement to deliver and save humanity. And Jesus is the climax of that movement. He is the climax of salvation history.
Ooh,
the one who brings it all to fulfillment. You read the Old Testament, it's building. Jesus arrives on the scene, and he is the fulfillment.
That's only 2.
And
No,
he
it's best of 3. It's best of 3.
recognizes
I mean, I'll
himself
continue
clearly
going
as
if you
the
want me to.
climax
That might
of
actually have to
God's
get bleeped
plan of
out. Who knows?
salvation for all humanity.
This
Free-to-play
whole
games.
case was sort of like one of those
We are a
jigsaw
free-to-play
puzzles
game.
where you don't know what the ultimate picture is going to be.
I like to say
You
that
just
we
put
are
together
an
the
exception
pieces,
to the
and
rule because
as I was
you
putting
really
together
can't play
all
our
of the
game
evidence,
it might
started
suck.
to take shape.
Like the grind
and
is going to
sort
be
of
real,
stepped back, and I
but
could
you can
see
that
it
still
was a
play
portrait
tier
of
1
Jesus
to
Christ.
tier 10 without spending a single dime and opening up your wallet. Say thank you to those that are wallet warriors because they do keep this game going and keep me from eating ramen on Monday through Saturday. I do treat myself on Sunday. How would you
This was
describe
not
the
just an
free-to-play
intellectual journey.
experience without spending
There was a
any money?
very real emotional
When's the last
component
time
to this,
anybody's ever
because I would
not
find
played
things
the
along the
free-to-play
way
experience?
that would challenge me
Some of
and
us,
my
like,
worldview on a very
myself,
deep
I have an
level.
account,
And I
that
would recoil
I
from it,
play
and I wouldn't want to believe
just
it.
for
and,
trying the free-to-play
I mean, there were so many.
experience.
There were so many reasons why I didn't want there to be a God, because I did not want to be held accountable for my life.
I didn't know at the time why Lee was so angry. I thought it was
there.
just being stubborn.
Have
He
either played of
says
you-
after
have you ever
coming
played
through it that it
Tier
was
6
conviction.
It seemed that the more Leslie's
Probably
values were
not
changing,
easy.
Probably
and her
explains why I only got to
character
tier
was
5.
being
I have
transformed, and
another
the way
account.
she related to me and
Tier
the
5
children was
German.
changing.
One of the first decisions we had to make was what villain did we want to bring in the game? The Gorn came to the top of the list right away. Now, the Gorn were in one episode of the classic series called Arena, but to this day, they're one of the most popular Star Trek villains of all time. It was such a huge responsibility for us to bring the Gorn to the modern age into a gaming space. We have over 15 different kinds of Gorn. We wanted to make sure that each one of these classes and species acted and behaved differently. So you have a rusher who will come at you, to a brute who really is the gladiator of it all, to a lieutenant who can go invisible.
Your tricorder should be able to help you find the Wheeler.
And ultimately, our huge leader. We also couldn't pass up the opportunity to bring in some female Gorn. No one's ever seen that before, so we looked at the reptile world to pull some colors from geckos and lizards. Star Trek the video game is the ultimate adventure where you get to play as Kirk and Spock as you work together to stop the Gorn from taking over the entire Federation.
Different,
it must have been dark, you know. I don't know. They must have missed him. No, I don't think physically
is that 1%?
A physical body can rise.
Or what the crew skills to put in them, what equipment loaded.
Xbox 360, starting at $199.
For more than a year, I'd investigated the historical record for the reliability of the New Testament. I'd looked at the identity of Jesus. But now was time to look at the ultimate evidence for who he really was. The purported resurrection of Jesus from the dead. And for that,
I had a player that
sat
me down when I played the Hellcat for before I discovered the T67 was better. He's like, why are you playing the Hellcat?
William Lane Craig, Biola University.
Like, well, this one has it all better first.
Gary Habermas,
and there's people
Liberty
that know
University.
that and help you figure out where you want to.
How people play without getting time is beyond
Michael
me, but
Lacona,
kudos to them because it
North
is hard.
American Mission
It's just
Board.
do your research, find out where the information is before you do the next purchase. Because credits or silver
You see, while Jesus was on
is
Earth, he
hard to
made,
come by, and it's never
some
fun
really
when you
radical
buy something
claims.
that's a whammy.
He claimed to be the
probably hate the
uniquely
game
divine
more
servant of God,
when that happens.
and he claimed
I know
that
I've
the
been
only
there,
way that we could get to God would be through
it just
him.
kind of like sits with you
Now,
over time.
I submit to you that if one of your
Speaking of
professors
things that you
made some
can
claims
get
like that, you would think that he or she
money,
was a few French fries
in-game
short of a Happy
purchase goods
Meal.
or like
Those are some
dollar
really
bills, y'all.
audacious claims.
Where are some places that people can get
a lot
those
of Jesus
things
critics
for free or
responded
try
to
get
him the
those
same way that you or I would
On
respond to someone
console,
making
I'd
those
say
claims
operations. If you go up to your little Ups tab on console, you can see what you can earn
why don't
in-game.
you show
It
it
can
to
be
us?
multipliers,
Why don't you give us
it
a
can
sign?
be
Show us
static
a
credits,
miracle or
static
something.
XP,
And Jesus said, well, I'll give
premium
you one
time.
miracle,
We had
one
a
sign,
vehicle last
my
month.
resurrection from the dead.
Boost stops, there's a ton of stuff that can be found
The
in that ops
resurrection of
tab.
Jesus
I
really
like
is the pivotal event of
Rampage
history.
mentioned, including tier 8
Anybody
premium
can
tanks
claim
we
to
had
be
in
the
game.
Son of God,
Can I
as
just
Jesus
say,
clearly
I
did.
hate how easy
The
it is
question
to you
is,
guys.
can you
like,
back
your
it
ops tab
up?
is so,
What
like,
evidence
right there
is
in
there
your
to
face.
support your
And on
claim?
PC,
What
on
credentials
PC,
do you
it's
have? And if
hidden
Jesus really
behind
did
the
return
fourth
from the
wall
dead,
of a next
that's
dimension in the
excellent
land of
evidence that
Narnia.
he is who
It's
he claimed
terrible.
to be.
You can click
the
this
one and
button
only
to
Son of
find
God.
not only the first part but the second
Oh,
part.
all right.
To weigh the validity of Jesus' resurrection,
so
we must
kudos
first
to
consider his
your
death.
tab.
Many skeptics have proposed that
Slightly
Jesus
down. But
merely
that's-
fainted on the cross,
That's because they have
or was
just so few
drugged,
things. All they have are
and
our
later
ops
escaped as
console,
part of a
but since PC is
conspiracy.
better, we've got tournaments,
By
we've got
contrast,
campaigns, we've got
the four
rentals,
gospel
we've got
narratives
holiday
collectively
specials,
describe the
clan
events
wars,
of his
we've got
public beating,
discounts, we've got a lot.
death by crucifixion,
Just making lists.
We got some of that too. We got tournaments. We just wrapped up a tournament.
wrapped up the
Where'd you
third
get those?
WC2.
Where'd you get those ideas
Jesus
from?
flogged
Where'd you get those ideas from?
and
That's
had
right.
him
On the PC.
crucified.
On the PC side. On the PC side.
15.
All right. So. A lot of great
Chances of
information.
surviving
I want to wrap this
crucifixion
up
were
real quick,
extremely
otherwise we're going to be
bleak.
losing viewers.
Crucifixion
for,
and the
like,
tortures that
the
normally
12th
preceded
hour.
it was the worst way
Is it
to
Wednesday
die
yet?
in
It
antiquity.
is almost
A
Wednesday.
person was scourged to the point usually that
next
their
week.
intestines, arteries, and veins were laid
Tips
bare.
and tricks
And then after that, a
to
person
making
was
your
dragged
free-to-play
out where they were
experience
impaled
better.
to a cross or a tree.
Go.
And then left hanging there in
Save your
excruciating
silver and
In fact, the word
credits until
excruciating
you
comes
do
from
some
the
research
Latin
and see if
out
you
of the
want
cross.
Jesus
to go up
was
the tech tree and
being
find a
tried
better
and
tank, or
executed
maybe
as
you
a
want to
rebel
give your
leader.
existing tanks some equipment
Now, in the
to really
Roman army,
maximize
if you
its
were responsible
battle
for
performance.
looking after one prisoner of war, even if he was
damage,
a rather
damage,
insignificant
and
prisoner
more
of war,
damage.
if you
The more
let him
damage
get
you deal,
away,
the more
your
XP
life
you
would be
get, the more
forfeit in
silver
place
you
of his,
earn,
and life was very
and
cheap.
survive as
If
long
you
as you
were
can.
looking after the
Because the longer you
execution of a
survive,
rebel
the more
leader,
damage you're going to
and you
do,
let him
and
get
the more
away,
likely you are to help
you're
your
in
team
deep
win,
trouble.
and that bonus
You're
multiplier for
not
winning
going back home to your
helps
wife
out a
and
lot.
kids. No way. Game over.
Aside from information,
The Romans
you,
were
wanna
very,
solve
very
everything.
good at killing people. They specialized.
Start button,
They
click
prided
depot,
themselves.
all the stuff that you upgraded or
Perhaps the
no
most
longer
definitive
use
statement
for.
of Jesus' death
That depot was fantastic.
The soldiers praised Jesus'
One of the first decisions we had to make was, what villain did we want to bring in the game? The Gorn came to the top of the list right away. Now, the Gorn were in one episode of the classic series called Arena, but to this day, they're one of the most popular Star Trek villains of all time. It was such a huge responsibility for us to bring the Gorn to the modern age into a gaming space. We have over 15 different kinds of Gorn. We wanted to make sure that each one of these classes and species acted and behaved differently. So you have a rusher who will come at you, to a brute who really is the gladiator of it all, to a lieutenant who can go invisible.
Your tricorder should be able to help you find the wee bugger.
And ultimately, our huge leader. We also couldn't pass up the opportunity to bring in some female Gorn. No one's ever seen that before, so we looked at the reptile world to pull some colors from geckos and lizards. Star Trek the video game is the ultimate adventure where you get to play as Kirk and Spock as you work together to stop the Gorn from taking over the entire Federation.
We did Melissa from the North America office, bringing all the things you need to know about World of Tanks starting on Friday. The IS-3A is coming back on sale. It goes boom, doesn't really go zoom, but it punches holes through things.